Bismillah. Welcome back, Zoo Crew. Today's topic is about purpose. And really, if you think about it, let's backtrack a bit. Would God have created you just so you can eat, sleep, shit, and entertain yourself? Or was there some greater reason behind Him creating us, right? And I think most people don't know what their purpose is, or they haven't really tried to figure out what's their purpose. And when you live without direction, it's like you're running on a treadmill, but you're not really going anywhere, right? It's the same thing like when people are being busy, but they're not being productive, right? So without a real purpose in life, you'll end up depressed, you'll end up anxious, and you'll just be running in place, right? You won't really feel fulfilled regardless of how much you are accomplishing in your day or even in your life. And to find what your purpose is, or to cultivate a sense of purpose, it's going to be at the intersection of a few things, right? So in Japanese, they call this ikigai. So it's what you love to do, what you can be paid to do, what the world needs, and what you're good at, right? So I would suggest figure out the main thing for you in each of these columns and then find where they intersect, and that is likely your purpose in life, right? Everybody has a purpose, everybody has some sort of a calling, some sort of a gift, something that they're here to share with the world. And as they age, they let society, the school system, their parents, their friends, and siblings kind of beat that dream out of them, right? They settle for a mediocre life, and they settle for a job instead of going and building a business or becoming self-employed, right? Because as much as people say, oh, like the world can't run if everyone's an entrepreneur, that's not necessarily true, because you have self-employed people who operate as third-party contractors, right? So they set their own hours, they set their own pricing, and businesses contract out work to these people, right? So in a way, they have a job. I guess not really, but like it's the equivalent of having an employee. It's just somebody who's gonna operate or do their work as though they're running their own business, right? And even if we look at sales, most sales representatives look at it as a job, right? They look at it as a career. They don't look at it as they're running their own business. The top salespeople in any company operate independently. They're intrapreneurs. So they operate as though they're running a business within a business, right? Whereas an entrepreneur is just running an actual business on their own. And again, like it's much easier to be an intrapreneur than it is to be an entrepreneur, because when you're an entrepreneur, there's nobody telling you what to do. It's really just trial by fire, right? And that is why you get paid so much more, or you have the ability to create so much more income, because you're taking on that much more risk, right? And I guess even before we like dive further into this, we should pause and recalibrate, because most people don't even know the difference between a job and a career, right? A job is something you do to make money. A career, it becomes your life, right? So you get specialized training, and then your whole world revolves around that career. However, you can turn a career into a business, right? Doctors do this, lawyers do this, accountants do this. And then on the flip side, you have people who are just as specialized, so the same people I just mentioned, doctors, lawyers, etc., but they work in somebody else's business, right? Because it's a shift of mindset, and it might come down to them having a different purpose in life, right? Somebody's purpose might be to create beautiful art. Somebody's purpose might be to have a family. Somebody's purpose might be to change the world, right? And if you are a man, it's very, very important that you figure out your purpose and you stay on purpose, especially when you are married or you're in a relationship or you're just hanging out with like a bunch of friends, right? You're too young to be in a relationship. The sooner you find out your purpose, the further ahead you will get in life, right? And now if you make your relationship your purpose, or your woman your purpose, sooner or later she will leave you, because it's a lot of pressure, first of all, when you have so much capability to create things and now all of your attention and focus is on this one person, right? And let's say you start building your life around the needs of this other person. How do you know this person's going to stick around, right? Next thing you know, you've built this life for a person that's not you, and that person leaves. Now you're stuck with a life you didn't choose. And even outside of this, most people are doing jobs or building careers and living a life they didn't choose, right? They're living out of alignment from their purpose. They're just going through the motions. They're just counting down the minutes, the hours, getting ready to clock out, right? And then enjoy their life. And if you work with people who don't enjoy their job, guess what? You're going to become one of those people, because your environment plays a huge impact in your life and how far you can go, right? So you have to make sure you're in an environment that's conducive to you achieving your potential. Because at the end of the day, if you are a man, your main goal, your main goal needs to be to make as much money as possible, gain as much status as possible, and be in the best shape as possible, like physically, right? These three things, it's what you have to do if you want to have any semblance of a good life, if you want to be secure, if you want to be content, right? And that's what it truly means to reach your potential. And that's the way God created you. So if you are not maxing out all three of these stats, you need to get serious about your life, right? And this is the thing, when you end up in a relationship with somebody or you're married, it's very easy to have your focus shift, right? It's very easy to now spend all your time with this person because you enjoy their company. However, you will get put back in life. You will notice that the polarity disappears, the respect disappears, the admiration disappears, right? It's no longer that you're somebody dependable. You're just become somebody who's lazy. You're just somebody who's hanging out, right? And most successful relationships, the woman looks up to the man, right? Because they're in a position of power. They have knowledge that the other person doesn't have. So they're learning, right? They're becoming their best self. And this happens when you lead by example. So if you don't have like a clear direction in life, or if you're letting life dictate how you live, sooner or later you will be left alone. And that's just the harsh reality, right? Because men are not loved unconditionally. The only people who will love you unconditionally, realistically, is your mom. And even that, some people don't have, right? So it's a cold world out there. It's only going to get much harder as we approach 2030 and this everything bubble begins to pop, right? The world is going to descend into chaos, and hopefully I'm wrong, but with the way things are going and all of my previous predictions coming true, I would not be surprised, right? So you are running out of time. I am running out of time. We're all running out of time to achieve our full potential and achieve our goals, right? And I think one thing people get wrong when it comes to goals or setting goals is we all kind of embrace Grant Cardone's 10x mindset, right? So we set these huge goals, or we try and change every aspect of our life at the same time, and then we don't really get anywhere. And I think that's why, because you become overwhelmed, right? So if you are somebody who hasn't really accomplished many goals, do not set huge goals from the beginning. Set very small goals that you can achieve. As you achieve your small goals, you will build your confidence and you will get motivation. With these two things, you can now go and set a bigger goal that you're going to be more likely to accomplish. And look, the reason he says set huge goals is because if you fall short of the goal, you've already surpassed people who had a smaller goal, right? But without those initial wins, it's a very hard uphill battle you'll be fighting, right? And again, if you're not clear on your purpose, if you're not living in alignment, your goals will not motivate you. You're not going to have any interest in accomplishing these goals because they're not true goals for you, right? These are just goals you picked up in a podcast or in a book or somebody else set for you, right? And the reality is, if you are a man, people depend on you. So you have to be very clear in what it is you're trying to do with your life and then go and do that, regardless of if people agree with you or not, right? It's much better to have your own vision and try to turn it into a reality than to just settle in life, right? Because then you will end up sad, old, and miserable, and you will feel like a failure on your deathbed. And or you will have a midlife crisis, and then one day you'll start and think like, okay, well, I wasted my life. What should I have done instead, right? So never make your life's purpose anyone outside of yourself, right? And I'm speaking from experience. So I went through this whole journey and I was focused. I had my own goals. I had my own purpose. Then somewhere along the way, Mina became my whole purpose. And I'm assuming that was extremely overwhelming for her. It was a lot of pressure for her. And then I guess it just got to a point where she couldn't respect me or value my time because it was just so readily and freely available, right? So we broke up. Then when we reconnected, again, I was starting down this path. I was creating my own life. I was trying to figure out where it is I wanted to go. And my own lack of discipline led to the same thing happening, right? Me letting my ambitions and goals and dreams and desires aside to make her happy, to enjoy my time with her, right? And then sure enough, things fell apart, right? While I was on track, while I was in the right mindset, while I was trying to create things and staying focused and telling her, no, like I cannot do this right now. I have to focus on my work, or I have to do this. I have to go to the gym. I have to pray. Things were going good, right? It's when I lost my center that things start to fall apart. And again, like I could have moved to Barrhaven, and let's just talk in a hypothetical world, right? Let's say I don't get this job at Civic Motors and now I'm going to Prio. So I could get a house in Barrhaven, and the logic would be, okay, like I'm a bit closer to work and then I'm closer to her. So if we were to ever reconnect, like it's easier for us to hang out, right? That would be me building my life towards catering towards her, not towards me. Whereas even if I don't get the job at Civic Motors, but I decide to live downtown, that's catering to me, the life I want to build, the life I want to live, and the hobbies I want to have, the way I want to spend my time, the way I want to enjoy my time, right? So you have to be very, very firm in your beliefs. And if you are not firm in your beliefs, you won't be firm in your habits. And it goes all the way down until you end up with a life you didn't pick, right? Because your beliefs become your habits become your life. And that's really as simple as it is. So for those of you who are already or who have already found their life's calling, you're living in alignment, you are living a purposeful life, congratulations. For those of you who are not, I highly recommend you take some time out of your day, out of your month before we get too far into this year. Think about what it is you really want in life, what kind of life you want to live. What is the thing that you're naturally good at? What is the thing that you enjoy doing? What is it that the world needs more of? And what can you get paid to do, right? When you figure out these four things, find where they overlap, and 9 times out of 10, that'll be your purpose in life, right? So don't waste your life if you are a young guy, if you're in your 20s. Explore, try a bunch of things, get good at something, right? Build your skills up. And then by the time you hit 30, you are going to be light years ahead of everybody else your age, you know? So, Zoo Crew, that's it for today. Go live a life that you can be happy about and proud of living. Don't just let somebody else prescribe something for you and end up miserable. Peace out.